You have been in situations where everything collapsed around you, and you panicked. You froze. You lost control. But there was always that one person next to you, completely still, completely clear, completely unshaken. And you wondered, what do they have that I don't? Today's psychology answers that question. Most people believe calm is a personality trait, something you are born with, a genetic gift that some people have and others simply do not. But neuroscience has completely destroyed that belief. Calm is not a personality. It is a practice. It is a skill. It is a relationship with your own mind that certain people have built, consciously or unconsciously, over years of deliberate mental training. And today you're going to understand exactly how they built it. The first thing psychology identifies in calm people is something called a high distress tolerance threshold. This means their nervous system does not interpret discomfort as danger the same way most people's does. The average person experiences a crisis and their amygdala, the brain's alarm system, fires immediately. Heart rate spikes. Rational thinking shuts down. Panic takes over. But calm people have trained their amygdala through repeated exposure to discomfort. They have faced hard things enough times that their brain has updated its threat assessment. It no longer treats every crisis as a catastrophe. It treats it as a problem, and problems have solutions. The second psychological trait of calm people is radical acceptance. This is a concept rooted deeply in Stoic philosophy and confirmed by modern cognitive psychology. Calm people do not waste energy resisting what has already happened. The moment a crisis occurs, their mind immediately separates what they can control from what they cannot, and they release the rest completely, not because they do not care, but because they understand at a deep psychological level that resistance to reality is the primary source of suffering, not the reality itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this 2,000 years ago. Neuroscience confirmed it last decade. The most powerful mental move a human being can make in a crisis is to say, "This is what is happening. Now what can I do?" The third trait is what psychologists call cognitive reframing. Calm people see the same situation differently. Where others see catastrophe, they see information. Where others see failure, they see feedback. Where others see the end, they see a turning point. This is not toxic positivity. This is a trained perceptual skill. The brain is a meaning-making machine. And calm people have learned to consciously choose the meaning they assign to events rather than accepting the first terrifying meaning their anxious mind offers. The fourth trait is somatic awareness. Calm people have an unusually strong connection between their mind and their body. They notice when tension builds before it becomes panic. They feel the early signals, the tight chest, the shallow breathing, the clenched jaw, and they intervene before the physiological stress response takes over completely. Psychology shows that controlled breathing, specifically extending the exhale longer than the inhale, directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system and physically overrides the panic response. Calm people do this instinctively. They breathe their way through what others drown in. The fifth trait is identity stability. Calm people have a very clear and settled sense of who they are. Their identity does not depend on the outcome of any single situation. They know their values. They know their capabilities. They know what they have survived before. And that knowledge creates an unshakable internal foundation that no external crisis can fully destabilize. When you know who you are at your core, losing a job, in a relationship, facing public failure, none of these things touch the deepest part of you, because the deepest part of you was never defined by those things to begin with. The sixth trait is what psychology calls long-term thinking under pressure. In a crisis, most people zoom in. They see only the immediate pain, the immediate threat, the immediate chaos. Calm people zoom out. They access a broader timeline, even in the middle of the storm. They ask, will this matter in 5 years? They remind themselves, I have been here before and I survived. They connect the present difficulty to a longer arc of their life, where this moment is just one chapter. That perspective does not minimize the pain. It contains it. And contained pain is manageable in a way that all-consuming pain never is. The seventh and deepest trait of calm people is that they have made peace with uncertainty. Most human anxiety is fundamentally anxiety about the unknown. What will happen? How will it end? What if the worst comes true? Calm people have done the deep psychological work of accepting that certainty is an illusion. That control is always partial. That life will always contain situations where the outcome is unknown. And instead of fighting that reality, they have learned to move forward anyway, not because they are fearless, but because they have learned that fear and action are not opposites. You can be afraid and still think clearly. You can be uncertain and still move forward. Courage is not the absence of panic. It is a decision to function despite it. You were not born without this ability. You were just never taught how to build it. And now you know exactly where to start. Share this with someone who needs to find their calm. And comment below what situation in your life tested your calm the most. I read every single one.